Hello and welcome. My name is Zaffar Iqbal and you're watching the Mojo Story. Justin Trudeau's flight has finally taken off from India. The Canadian Prime Minister faced a series of challenges during his visit to India. Firstly, his plane suffered a technical glitch causing delays. Trudeau faced criticism from the Indian government over lack of action against pro-Khalistan activities in Canada, leading to strained relations. Trudeau's response emphasized Canada's commitment to freedom of expression and peaceful protest. Now, this incident has also become fodder for opposition, political opposition back home in Canada, with discussions of potential government change in the next elections. Ultimately, in a nutshell, Trudeau's visit to India was marked by and diplomatic tensions and logistical challenge. To discuss the visit of the Canadian Prime Minister, we're joined by an eminent panel. We're joined by Samir Kaushal, who joins us. He's a news director, Radio AM 600. Welcome to the show, sir. We're also joined by Terry Milewski, journalist and author. Welcome to show, sir. Ashok Sajjanhar, he'll join us later in the show. But at the moment, we're joined by Lieutenant General Rameshwar Yadav, former DG Infantry and Strategic Affairs expert. Welcome to Mojo Story, sir. If I may start with you, Samir Kaushal, we know that what's happened in India, the Indian Prime Minister telling the Canadian Prime Minister about the activities of Khalistani elements in Canada, and India has expressed strong concerns about that. But it's not just the Indians, but back home in Canada, the Canadian media and the Canadian opposition parties are also gunning for Justin Trudeau.
Yes, actually, there are certain reasons for that, because this is not the first time that Mr. Justin Trudeau, our Honorable Prime Minister, he actually never bring that leadership onto the global stage, whether it was G7, whether it was last year G20, when he was been scolded by the Chinese President Xi Jinping as well on the global stage. So this is now like a common phenomenon in Canadian politics. And as well as right now, the political dynamics are changing so fast in Canada, because right now the Liberal government, they announced for international independent inquiry in foreign interference cases, and China and Russia, they are amongst the centerpiece of that investigation. So what I think they just want to divert that the public inquiry from China to India. That's why I think the statement which has been given by the Prime Minister Justin Trudeau in India, and as far as the political dynamics are concerned, Justin Trudeau is losing his grounds in his own country. He's losing his popularity. If you look at all the pollings, there are so many companies conducting polls, and he's losing all the polls from his official opposition leader Pierre Poilievre. All the polls, Pierre Poilievre is leading by double digits. So that is also a big concern for Liberals, as well as because right now the Liberal government is not in majority. They are ruling the government with the alliance of NDP leader Jagmeet Singh, who is a pro-Khalistani, and I think that is the pressure as well on Justin Trudeau somehow, and there are pressure groups as well. Those who that's what I feel. I mean, they are trying to change the narrative of a public inquiry, not just only on the China, because it is from our Canadian spy agency. They clearly mentioned that there were so many instances when Chinese Communist Party, they are trying to fill their agenda in the Canadian Chinese Canadian diaspora. And
you're talking about that meeting between the Chinese president and Justin Trudeau. Those are the visuals on the screen. It's happened in the past. Now in India, he has failed to present himself as a strong leader of his country. Terry, you would agree that he seemed to be a bit lost all this time in the visit, and that has that was reflected in those meetings. It's not just now; it's happened in the past also. So you
It
think that
certainly has.
he's failed to present himself as a strong leader of his country.
He has, unfortunately, and it's baffling, really, why he and his advisors still don't get it after the fiasco that resulted on his last trip to India. I mean, we've been here before. You'll recall in 2018 on his visit to India that it ended in really a bit of a farce, where a convicted Khalistani terrorist named Zaffar Iqbal, convicted in the shooting of an Indian cabinet minister on Vancouver Island in 1986. His name was Malkiat Singh Sidhu. And Mr. Atwal received an invitation to a glittering diplomatic reception, a dinner party at the Canadian High Commissioner's place in honor of the Trudeaus, the visiting Trudeaus. I mean, and when this came out, of course, it was a horrendous embarrassment. I reported on that story for the CBC. Within minutes, the Prime Minister's office rushed to disinvite Mr. Atwal from the dinner, but it was too late. The damage was done. What was so amazing about that was that they didn't foresee the embarrassment. They didn't foresee that, maybe it's not a good idea to have a Khalistani terrorist having dinner with the Prime Minister in New Delhi. Maybe the Indian government isn't going to like that very much. I mean, you don't have to be a genius to figure that out, I don't think. Now, that's fast forward to today, and they still don't get it. Now, that is really incomprehensible. What I mean by not getting it is that by repeating the same old mantra, free speech, they can say what they like, let the Khalistanis go through the streets of Toronto carrying on the back of a truck with a life-size diorama, a tableau celebrating the assassination of Indira Gandhi in 1984. Let them put up life-size posters of the Air India bomber, the Kanishka bomber, Talvinder Parmar, the worst mass murderer in Canadian history. Let's put his martyr poster glorifying him as a great martyr and a model for Sikh youth, and let's put his poster on the outside of a Gurdwara in Surrey, British Columbia. And let's have them parade through the streets with posters painting targets on the backs of Indian diplomats, calling them killers, as we have seen recently. These posters, in fact, have been seen worldwide. In Canada, they were paraded through the streets of Vancouver and Toronto, calling Indian diplomats killers and accusing them of having murdered a leading Khalistani figure in British Columbia, Mr. Nijjar, Hardeep Singh Nijjar, who is now called Shahid Nijjar, and the martyr. And so all of this is perfectly fine, apparently, with the government of Canada. Well, there's some holes in the law. I would suggest we can discuss that if you like. I mean, the Canadian law does say, freedom of speech is fine. And I've got no quarrel with that. Most Canadians don't have a quarrel with that. But there is a line that has to be drawn where when it becomes criminal. That's the problem.
You can see from those visuals on the screen, this is that tableau. They're showing the killers of a former Prime Minister of India, glorifying that act. Now, what could be worse than this?
Well, I mean, that's getting pretty bad. I mean, that's surely beyond the line, because most countries have legislation where there are limits on freedom of speech to include, for example, the glorification of terrorism. Britain, for example, has had such legislation for 17 years now. It was passed in 2006. Why can't Canada get with it and say, okay, there is a point, we do draw a line where it's too much, and we won't have the glorification of terrorism. That should be a criminal offense. The incitement to violence that is represented by this is too much. I mean, I'm a free speech advocate. Most Canadians are. They don't want restrictions on freedom of speech, but they do want restrictions, I believe, on crossing that line into the open and public incitement and glorification of terrorism. And that's something that where, for example, Rishi Sunak made himself a hero in New Delhi, did he not, just a few days ago, saying, look, we're not going to allow any space for this kind of
Absolutely.
extremism in
Now,
Britain.
that is
Why
that is
can't the Canadian Prime Minister say the same?
do that. That's what everybody is asking. Lieutenant General Rameshwar Yadav, why is Canadian Prime Minister and Canadian government so out of sync with the situation on the ground? Why are not they able to get it? They repeat the same mistake again and again.
I think they are not out of sync of what is happening in Canada on ground by Khalistani movement, and they're flouting all these posters, and they have showcased a tableau assassinating our ex-prime minister. They know everything about it. It is that they have a political compulsion, and that compulsion is to stay in power because the Sikh lobby is a very big lobby there. They are very influential. They have a lot of money and plus lot of support not only within Canada from outside also. So it is a internal political compulsion that is making the Prime Minister of Canada taking a stance the way he has conducted himself earlier during his 2018 visit and also now while when he came to India for the G20 summit. So if you and Indian government has been emphasizing time and again कि kindly control these terror organization people. This is not good for us. It impacts our internal security. So, but Canadian government has not really taken action which can showcase that they are serious about the whole affair. On the contrary, they have been encouraging them because they are permitting them publicly to showcase their anger and to spread anti-Indian venom in their society. So that is the state of affairs. They are aware about it, but they have a political compulsion. And like fellow panelists said, that present prime minister, his popularity graph is decreasing by the day. So he has not much of choice but to stand alongside with Khalistani movement. And this is what probably thinking that a section of the society is going to support him.
Samir Kaushal, will it really help him? Because the point is that even if he says that it's freedom of speech, so freedom of expression, we can't do much about it. But the fact is that it is not the entire Sikh community. It can be a component of the Sikh community. Is not he able to judge that? That it cannot be the entire community, or they seem to be disconnected with the ground realities. What's the deal here?
Actually, there's a very thin line between the freedom of speech and freedom of expression. When we're talking this term in India and when we're talking this term in Western world, over here people are more lenient onto these terms. They feel like yeah, you can say whatever you want to say, but that has to be in a very dignified ways. But if you listen to the yesterday's statement by Gurpatwant Singh Panu, where he was saying that I am calling for a political assassination of India or political assassination of the diplomats. So those kind of statements, when he translate them in Punjabi, then the total context, it changed the total context, and I think still Canada or US and some other countries, they are still lenient with this terminology of freedom of expression and freedom of speech. I think with now when everything is on the global stage now, I think the Canadian policymakers, they should look for review into these terms, how they can change it, and all those gray lines between or the thin lines between, they need to be raised out, and they have to make sure what does they mean by the freedom of expression and freedom of speech, because you cannot threaten somebody in the name of freedom of expression. You cannot put somebody's picture without any evidence and call them as a wanted or as a assassinate, call them for the assassination without any evidence. Even the RCMP, the police of jurisdiction in this city, they are saying that they don't have any kind of evidence against these diplomats or the consul general. So they are just trying to play with the words only, and I think the people know about this, and just 2 years left, and I think the government of the people of Canada, they're going to make their decision very fast, because I think the things need to change.
Yes, you spoke about freedom of speech. Let's hear, in fact, Justin Trudeau said after his meeting with Prime Minister Modi, what exactly he said in that press conference?
Sikh Khalistani militants in Canada. And the second is the question of interference in Canada by India, which has been cited by Canada's own intelligence agencies. Did neither of those topics come up?
No, they both came up over the years with Prime Minister Modi. We've had many conversations on both of those issues. Obviously, Canada will always defend freedom of expression, freedom of conscience, freedom of peaceful protest. That's something that's extremely important to us. At the same time as we're always there to prevent violence, to push back against hatred. I think on the issue of the community, it's important to remember that the actions of the few do not represent the entire community or Canada. The flip side of it, we also highlighted the importance of respecting the rule of law, and we did talk about foreign interference.
Actions of few do not represent the entire community. Terry, he says that. But the fact is that while he was in India, those statements about political assassination were made in Canada by the Khalistani separatists.
Yes, it's not a very stirring statement, isn't it? I mean, that's the contrast that I was hoping to draw between what Mr. Sunak said on behalf of Great Britain and what Mr. Trudeau said on behalf of Canada. There's a sort of milquetoast, feeble statement saying, he's both siding it. You know, on the one hand, we think that these Khalistanis should have freedom of speech, in effect, and on the other hand, India shouldn't be interfering in our affairs. Now, the problem here is that this phrase "foreign interference" has achieved great potency lately in Canada, because what it means is it was originally intended to be pointing a finger at China for interfering, practical interference, actual money changing hands, serious tinkering with the Canadian political electoral process by the government of China. By the Communist Party of China. Nothing similar has been alleged, to my knowledge, about India. Nevertheless, India has now been swept into, at the behest of the Khalistanis, who say, well, what about foreign interference from India? Although there is no evidence similar to that that exists in the case of China, we are now saying that we're implicitly endorsing, by saying we've got a problem with foreign interference by India, we're implicitly endorsing the claims by Khalistanis that foreign interference includes the assassination by the government of India of Mr. Najjar, a prominent Khalistani in Surrey, British Columbia. That's what they mean by foreign interference by India. They say, look, this is an Indian assassination. Now, there's no evidence for that whatsoever, none at all. And so for the government to get sucked into that kind of propaganda and then conflate that with something really quite real, namely Chinese interference in our elections, that's a political blunder. There's no way to be polite about it. That is an absolute fiasco. There really is no comparison between the two. And so that just shows you started out asking, why doesn't Trudeau get it? That suggests to me that as bad as he made it sound, it's actually worse.
Samir, you want to come in?
The surprising fact, even our RCMP, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, they confirmed that they were investigating into Chinese police stations in Canada. Can you believe there were 5 Chinese police stations? The Chinese Communist Party, they were, dealing with the Chinese Canadian diaspora on the Canadian soil, and this matter has been, taken into the House of Commons as well in our Parliament. So that kind of, serious interference, and even the CSIS, our spy agency, they categorically mentioned this, that there was, there are so many news outlets, they break the story that there in 2019, 2021, approximately, I think, if I'm not wrong, 11 member of parliamentarian candidates, they have been given certain kind of, benefits, or they have been influenced in certain ways, to go in the politics, not just only on the federal level, but there were, news, the Chinese Communist Party, they were interfering in the local politics as well to make their choice of mayors in different cities. So I what I can see from this whole narrative, that they because Justin Trudeau, he never wanted to start this public inquiry. He said that he actually made one of his very old known and even a former Governor General, David Johnson, as a special rapporteur. And after so much pressure by his alliance and by the opposition parties, now I think just few days back they announced that there's going to be a public inquiry in this matter. And just to change that narrative, because a few days back one of our minister, he just went to the visit in China. All the dialogues are changed, all the narrative is changing, and the focus for the public inquiry from the China, now they want to shift it to India as well. That's what I can see. But I haven't, because Miss Jodie Thomas, she is a Prime Minister office. I think she's very senior. She's a very
National
senior
Security
official.
Advisor.
National Security Advisor of Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. She actually gave the statement that India is also one of the main actor in foreign interference, but she haven't given any kind of proof or any kind of evidence in that. So that's what I think, changing the narratives.
Very complicated. The point is that the angry message sent out by India, will it make an impact? Lieutenant General Rameshwar Yadav, India has expressed its concern many times in the past. Now it's come at the top. The Prime Minister has conveyed to the Canadian Prime Minister. It's come right at the top. The messaging, will it make any difference on the ground, or will it again be masked by these expressions of freedom of expression and movement and all that, even as they keep on giving such slogans and such hate speeches out in Canada, which are certainly provoking violence?
I think, like I said earlier, it is their internal, they have some political compulsion. So I think this kind of stance will continue. And on face of it, they'll continue saying what you want to hear. They will continue saying, okay, fine, we'll try and cut these guys. And they are also going to say, look, at the same time, look, we respect the freedom of expression and the peaceful demonstrations that they have. So I think this pattern will continue. It is unlikely to change because they have compulsions. But the bigger question is, as far as India is concerned, the Prime Minister of Canada has been told, as the media has reported, that he's been told about all these things by none other than Mr. Modi during the pull aside meeting that they had recently. And at the end of that, and what press conference the Canadian Prime Minister had, you have heard it, means it says so. You see, what people say that at the diplomat level and this level, half of the things they do not say it. But mere expression, the way he has said it, one can make out what he's saying. It is for your ears, but at the same time, we also understand what he's not saying. And what he's not saying is, look, leave it to us. We will continue the way we are. This is what he did. And they have gone to the extent, because of the fringe elements, what he's calling, because of these fringe elements, a few people in Canada, he is putting Indo-Canadian relationship at stake. That is one point. And second thing is the FTA talks that they were doing, which was a mutually beneficial talks between Canada and India. Now they have also got derailed in between because of this issue itself. And India is concerned because it is impacting our internal security. Where Punjab happens to be one of the neighboring state of Pakistan, and Pakistan is known to have their hand into the Khalistani movement, which was in 80s, and it was very difficult. And there was a time that that these people were quite active in Punjab, and there was a big campaign, and including the army had to be called out to curb this menace. And but that seeds which were sowed that time, they continue even today. It's not only Canada. It is in UK, it is in Australia, it is in America. All the affluent countries where all the Indian diaspora from the Punjab, they have gone and they are very rich as of now, and they pump in a lot of money into Punjab to the poor people there, and they try and instigate their followers there. You see, last year there was the Kisan Andolan, and it is believed that even a lot of money was pumped in even if that, so as to fuel anti-Indian comment sentiments. So the problem is very grave as far as India is concerned, and we are concerned about it, and we will take all the possible action which we can take within the laid down norms and international affairs, and that kind of uh, actions which are warranted.
Yeah, it's a multi-layered sort of a situation right now. But Terry, how do you see the relationship developing here on? It's strained at the moment, but does it depend on Justin Trudeau and his government? You know,
Not,
yeah,
I would say not necessarily. And that is because his time may very well be drawing to a close. As Samir pointed out correctly a moment ago, the polls tell us, for what it's worth, that if there were an election held tomorrow, that Mr.
yeah,
Poilievre of the Conservatives would certainly win. So the alliance with the NDP party of Jagmeet Singh, as he rightly pointed out, a known Khalistani sympathizer, that would be then irrelevant if there were a new government. So it may be wise for Indian politicians to look past Mr. Trudeau at this point, since they seem to have more or less written him off, and start thinking about a new Conservative government in Canada, which I think would be different on this score. However, it's not possible, I'm afraid, to tell Indians today. I certainly wouldn't tell Indians today that this problem is going to go away if we have a new government in Canada, because all parties, to include the Conservatives, have a very spotty record on this file. We talked earlier about the 2018 visit of Mr. Trudeau, when the Conservatives initially had the instinct, let's cash in on Mr. Trudeau's problems, let's force a motion through Parliament condemning the glorification of terrorism. Great idea, except that the Khalistanis didn't like it. And they exercised their political muscle and objected to this motion. And the Conservatives, what do? They threw up their hands and they caved in.
Yeah. That's the sad reality of politics. But Samir, that headline on that newspaper, "This Way Out," that rather summed up the sentiment back home in Canada. His flight developed snags, and he had to wait for a long time in India before his flight could finally take off today. It was complicated on so many different levels. It was not easy at any level for Justin Trudeau.
You're just we are just seeing only one headline. There's another headline. The Saskatchewan, one of our very major province, their premier Scott Moe, he actually called out from the federal government that what the hell you have been done in Canada. Their trade minister, he categorically wrote a letter to the federal trade minister Mary Yang, and he asked for, because what they are claiming that they have export from Saskatchewan to India annually for $1 billion. And even in 2018, when all that drama happened, their trade export has been down from 1 billion to 500 million. So right now they are very concerned with the relations, which has already been strained and going so low. What's going to happen? And I think there are so many. Let Mr. Justin Trudeau come back, and we're going to see more of these kind of statements from the opposition parties and from the Canadians as well. Yes, there are certain groups, those who are very happy with this with his statement in India, especially the WSO or even Jagmeet Singh. But as far as the leadership is concerned on a global stage, where 19 other world leaders were there, European Union's Council's president was there, African Union Council was there, more than you can say like 70 different countries representation was there, and we lost. As a Canadian, I think we lost a chance to prove our abilities in a much better way.
Canada lost the chance to prove its abilities in a much better way. I want to end the show by playing up that tweet when he left India, and Indian minister actually tweeted seeing him off. So that was the end of this tour. Not an eventful one in positive way for the Canadian Prime Minister, and back home, it has not served his purpose. Even the opposition, the media, is gunning for him. We'll have to see how the relations develop here on. But that's all the time we have on the show. Thanks so much to all of our panelists for joining us, and thanks so much for watching the Mojo Story.
It's great to see you here. Thank you for watching our work. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click the bell icon and subscribe to Mojo Story and support independent, robust journalism.